Since Lionel Johnson has returned to Warhammer 40k, there has been one moment that the entire community has been frothing at the mouth for, salivating like Pavlov's dog. The meeting of the Primarchs. The reunion of the 13th and the 1st demigod sons of the Emperor, Roboute Guilliman, and the Lion. Lion came back, and then there was nothing but crickets for a couple of years. A few lines about his lore in the Dark Angels Codex, and there was the whole Arcs of Omen thing, but the novel Lion Son of the Forest, where he made his return properly, left us on this massive cliffhanger as far as the state of the Imperium, the Loyalist brothers, and their reunion with one another. But since that time, Games Workshop has made some pretty big moves as far as the Warhammer 40k lore goes, and the stage is now set for some insanely massive galaxy redefining events. While we've been eagerly awaiting the follow-up book to Mike Brooks' incredible work, Lion Son of the Forest, Roboute Guilliman has been getting his share of the spotlight in the lore of both 40k, with books like The Silent King, and 30k, with his personality absolutely dominating the first Scouring novel, Ashes of the Imperium. And what we really need to talk about as a community, as Warhammer fans, is what is on the horizon. It isn't going to go how we think. That's my first prediction for all of this. And that is based in the lore surrounding the most recent Guilliman appearances. Black Library has been going out of their way to paint a certain picture of Guilliman. One where we see his faults and his weaknesses on full display, which does make the character much more compelling than he's been the past few years, but one that puts him on a direct collision course with his big brother, Lionel Johnson. Guilliman hasn't changed, and that's appropriate. He was in stasis and didn't age. It only makes sense that he was asleep for only moments from his perspective. 10,000 years of time did not take the same toll on Guilliman as it did his brother. Though it must be said the Lion was also in a slumber, but he was not held inches from death by a stasis field keeping him static, undecaying, for 10 millennia. Lion was basically just napping. A long Rip Van Winkle type of nap. But when he wakes, he's a transformed man. Lion awakens with the wisdom, self-awareness, and groundedness of a man that is as old as he's become. In many ways, the Lion we see in the current era is the first Primarch with an actual adult mind we get that isn't a demon-corrupted shell of their former self. So for the first time we get a Primarch that is self-aware. Something that is completely at odds with Guilliman's personality. Lion knows the mistakes he's made in the past, and he knows the path he must walk is one of redemption and reclamation, not of penance for his past sins. He doesn't need to be the man he once was, when he has a new, more open worldview. Don't get me wrong, the Lion is absolutely, unshakably loyal. He will not turn from his father's vision for humanity, even if he finds himself in a grim dark future where he cannot recognize anything, where his atheist father is a god, where the Imperium is a galactic-scale Soviet Russia on crack, where miracles and faith have real-world battlefield effects, and where the gods of chaos play with the galaxy like it's a chess game between them. The Lion has morals that are going to put him on a collision course with his 13th brother. He has standards and convictions that will require confrontation. And I believe that the big reunion we're all waiting for is going to kick off something seriously dark. I'm not feeling a big bro hug, I'm not feeling a happy reunion, or at least not for long. Once the Lion finds out about the reestablishment of the 500 worlds, once he finds out about the billions of loyal Imperial citizens purged for Guilliman's personal fiefdom's expansionism to flourish, he's going to have a massive problem with that. Now, there are other political situations to consider as well, such as the Necron threat and the literal countdown to subjugation the Silent King, Zarek, gave to Guilliman. We're on the Necron ruler's timescale, and Guilliman isn't actually taking it seriously. Sure, Imhotep the Stormlord's out there, vying for power, but Guilliman doesn't know that. The stage is set for the most massive war since the War in Heaven. Hints of this can be seen throughout the recent novel Archmagos as well. The Necrons are like nothing Guilliman has ever really had to deal with, and they're a much, much bigger problem than he's prepared for. Lion is out to protect humanity. He doesn't care about the expansion of the Imperium, his name or birthright. He doesn't care about a throne or ruling. He just wants to get out there and get his hands bloody with the entrails of his enemies, and to protect the little people, basically. He's gone from Crusader Knight mode, conquering and slaughtering, to Protector Paladin mode. And he's literally, and metaphorically now, effectively, the Emperor's shield. The Lion knows what is important and what is just red tape. And Guilliman has been getting lost in the myriad offices and labyrinthine depths of the Imperium's innermost machinations. He's in a quagmire of constantly shifting political situations, constantly shifting alliances, and backstabbing and betrayal, the likes of which someone from the Heresy and Crusade eras was not going to have ever seen. Nothing even close, as the bloating and stagnation of the Imperium continued on unabated for 10,000 years. Guilliman may be the only Primarch capable of operating under such ridiculous circumstances, and he may be all that is holding the Imperium together now. But the things he has had to do to maintain that order are going to be seen by the Lion as inexcusable. Well, at least he tells himself that those things were things he had to do. There's a whole galaxy criticizing his methods and capabilities. And one thing that they've been driving home about the Avenging Sun is he thinks he's always right. So, this is just another character trait that's likely to bring Guilliman into conflict with the Lion. L. Johnson is now able to self-reflect, to examine, to show restraint, and to choose the path of wisdom over vengeance when he needs to. These are things that are contrary to the recent Guilliman appearances. It's almost like Games Workshop are setting this up deliberately. Both Primarchs on a collision course of loyalties and moralities before they even meet. Lion as an old man is now one of the most understanding and compassionate beings that is in the setting. If he can forgive his fallen sons and accept their repentance, then he has grown immeasurably on an emotional and a mental level. Guilliman hasn't had time for that, as he's basically gone from out of the frying pan and into the fire. He's got no time for considerations of the little folk, the common Imperial citizen, and that's who the Lion is fighting for now. It's interesting indeed that Commander Dante of the Blood Angels, the man Guilliman named Lord Regent of Imperium Nihilus, is in touch with both Primarchs in recent lore, but they have not yet met, despite this. So in the 10th edition Dark Angels Codex supplement, we get a clear picture of this collision course they're setting up. This is why I believe the reunion of the brothers will be darker than perhaps many of us want it to be. From Codex Dark Angels. Indeed, the Lion makes no secret of his contempt for what has become of his father's realm in the millennia since the Great Crusade. He still serves the Emperor and cares for the fate of humanity. However, what hints he has so far seen of the bloated, bureaucratic, and deeply superstitious Imperium of M41 disgusts Lion L. Johnson. He has little time for the pompous and self-aggrandizing adepts who wield such power over people's lives, and even less for the ecclesiarchy and their imperial creed. Where Rabute Guilliman has shown a willingness to exploit the existing socio-administrative and political structures of the Imperium to his own ends, the Lion appears largely to ignore them. His time and respect the Primarch reserves for those who toil or fight to preserve the Emperor's realm. More than one world has a tale of the Knight of the Nihilus choosing to address soldiers in preference to brocaded governors or gilded priests. Few indeed are the officials so overblown in arrogance that they would find the will of the words to gainsay a Primarch. Thus, on several occasions, the Lion's coming has led to swift and dramatic regime changes as hereditary or ineffectual leaders have been replaced by those who deal in loyal action rather than ingratiating words. So yeah, the Lion is coming at all this from the exact opposite perspective as Guilliman. Now, they may be able to resolve this, and they may be able to see eye to eye on some things, but there are others that I think are non-negotiable. Lion is a man who lives by a specific code of honor, and the state of not just the Imperium but its regent is probably something which the Lion won't abide. Is this good for the setting? Yes. We need more reasons for the loyalist Imperial forces to come into conflict with one another. It makes the setting more compelling and the tabletop game more interesting and make more sense. But for the ostensible greater good, Guilliman has crossed many lines recently. The Call Inferior, for example. How is that going to set with the Lord of Caliban? It may just be that he considers that to be heresy of the highest order. I know I pretty much do. While the Imperium that Guilliman returned to and awoke in was strange to him, it is still strange to the Lion as well. They may both have to undergo an adjustment period with both themselves and each other. Who knows? Guilliman is slowly coming around to the idea that his father is indeed a god, as we see in the Silent King novel. And he may just be coming around to the notion that he himself is seen as a demigod, at the least, as a son of the Emperor, a son of God. Maybe L. Johnson will come around to similar conclusions. Perhaps the Lion will convert his belief system to accept the Imperial Creed. These are the things that will really determine whether or not the meeting of the brothers is a good one, or if it breaks out into conflict. Now, I have a strong bias here, as the Lion is one of my all-time favorite characters in Warhammer, and I've been a 13th Legion hating Dark Angels player since late 3rd, early 4th edition. Working on my second army now, as I sold the first one off many years ago. So, I for one want to see the Lion do to Guilliman what he did to Russ and shove fealty through his chest. Not to kill, just to make a point. Funny how quickly Russ laughed that off, but I get the impression that Guilliman would never let something like that go. But here's an interesting thing to consider. We now have the Emperor's sword and the Emperor's shield in play, and the Primarchs themselves seem to have taken to these roles as much literally as metaphorically. For the Imperium's sake, I hope they work with one purpose, that they put aside old rivalries, but so far the Scouring series has me thinking they're going to all drift apart, whether justified or not. All the Primarchs seem to be icebergs unto themselves and have their own worldview. Getting any two of them on the same page is not an easy task. And now, 10,000 years later, after the Scouring, the stakes have been ratcheted up all the way, cranked to 11, rest in peace Rob Reiner, and the characters seem to be doubling down on their defining traits. So the Lion is cool with the soldiery overall, but tends to not even interact with politicians. Rabute Guilliman is the most consummate politician of all time, next to his father. Maybe these are two differing perspectives that the Imperium needs. But let's be honest, this is the Grimdark. And anything less than rivers of blood and sector-wide infighting might just be too tame for the likes of the Warhammer community. We shall see, and I have a feeling we shall see soon. But we can't deny the table is set, and the brothers might have an amicable dinner together, or perhaps someone is going to throw their cheeseburgers and leave ketchup stains on the walls. Either way, we have much to look forward to. What do you guys think? Will the Avenging Sun get along with the Son of the Forest? Will Ultramar and Caliban be able to work together for humanity? Is a full-blown civil war inevitable? Or is it something in between?